Okay, everyone, welcome back to Premier Study Investing. Hey, I just want to thank everyone so much for tuning in and also for all the things that we're just learning as we go along. Today, we're going to be doing another video. It's been since the summer since I've done a video on Relief Therapeutics, ticker Rlftf or RLF if you trade it over the counter. Rlftf if you trade it over the counter. So, just going to look really quick at some of the short volume. One of the big things that's changed since the summer is there's appears to be a lot more shorting of this stock since when I covered last time. So if you want to go back and look at some of the older videos, I'll give you a breakdown of the science if you're not aware of it. You know, if you're an investor already, you're probably well aware of basically VIP, the partnership with NeuroRx, the breakdown of the profit sharing in the different countries as they move forward with this thing, as well as some of the different clinical trials with the IV delivery system versus the inhaled version. I may come back depending upon how well this video does and do a deeper dive as things have progressed, and there's been a decent run up in the share price this last week again. It's really traded sideways for most of the last few weeks. What I'm going to try to focus on in this video is basically the shares outstanding, looking at possible dilution. Videos I did, this came out, looks like in July. Yeah, so, which is fine. But one thing the interviewer asked Ram about is some of the shares outstanding and possible dilution. And I had put in an old video that was, if you add these numbers up, which we pulled out of this article, it's 6.1 billion shares, which is really a lot. So if we scroll to the middle of this article, the interviewer says Relief has 2.2 billion shares outstanding. And additionally, there's an authorized share capital of 1.1 billion, so that takes us to 3.3. Conditional capital of nearly an additional billion, that'd be 4.3 for bonds. And then on top of that, an additional 1.8, so that'd be 5.3, and then 6.1 for additional employee benefits plan. However, there are only a handful of employees at the company, and he answers the share benefit plan is not intended solely for the existing employees. It's to give us the possibility to hire additional people and establish further infrastructure as and when we would need it. So I wanted to see really 6.1 billion shares. If we look at some other places, shares outstanding, we see 3.5 billion. That would be as of today. The float and different things like this, percent held by institutions or whatever. We can also see a similar number here, 3.246, so round that up, that'd be 3.5 billion shares. That's as of 22nd of January 2021. And so I wanted to look at this a little bit and try to walk through. They do give us authorized shares, which is something interesting. 4.8 billion, so still pretty far short of my 6.1, or not mine. I mean, that was what the interviewer said. So I'm going to go over. So they put out a consolidated interim financial statement, and I think this is the most recent that we have. It was approved by their board September 14th of 2020. So I don't think we have a new one out for in January. So one thing we'll start with is the earnings per share calculation that they did, and we can see in 2020 they used the average number of shares for this purpose. They just set it at 2.15 billion, and that's going to be a little bit important because but then we see this: warrants and options granted as part of the EAP have not been considered in the calculation of the diluted loss per share, as their effect is anti-dilutive. So now all we have to do is go and just read through this section 10.1. Basically, as of June 30th, there was 2.229 shares registered, par value of penny each, or 0.01 of a Swiss franc each. There's pretty close. So over the summer, it was pretty close to 1-to-1. Now it takes about 1.12 US dollars to buy 1 Swiss franc. So if we're talking about shares that were registered on the SIX, which is the Swiss exchange, they have a total of 2.251 billion. We go down here, and there's authorized shares of another 1.056. So we're just going to go through this and just start adding it up. And I'm just going to take the 2251. Plus, what do we have here? The 1056. All right, let's keep going. Now, I'll notice these weren't counted in their EPS calculation because these are valued at 0.01, while the common share is 0.004. Okay. Anyways, then we have a conditional share capital of the company consisting of 941 shares. So we'll add those in. These are in millions, of course. And let's see how we're doing compared to this other site we had here. They had authorized shares 4871. So we're getting there. And these also had a par of 0.01 Swiss francs. If you add these two numbers together, that'll take you to the 941, the 174 plus the 766. So that's just some details. Breaks it down further. Had 35 million options outstanding. We'll add those in. 35. Probably should have said 36, but whatever. So it's a pretty small number, but it just says that they issued another 2.5 million and that there were 37 million exercised. So let's just assume that they issued new shares to cover those. It's a very small number, like we're saying, 35 out of 4,283. So it's not going to change this a lot. And then the number of warrants outstanding issued by the group was 66, 658, 667. We can go through all this. There was 100 million that were exercised, and then they issued another 10 million, and these are at different prices. When we come to the end here, there was this one interesting sentence that these committed warrants were erroneously not disclosed in previous financial support. So, you know, I mean, it's just something to be aware of. I guess these aren't always perfect, even though they're audited. This one actually probably wasn't audited. Anyways, it says how many, the conversion rate, the warrants give the right to the warrant holder to buy an equal number of shares of the company. So you have 656. It's just this plus the extra 10 million over here. So these at this price, 0.01, and the 10 million have an exercise price of a little bit higher. But you just add these two together and you get this. So we'll call it 66. We'll round up. So 667. So we'll add that in there. 667. So going back to this article, again, the interviewer says there's 2.2 billion shares outstanding. There is authorized share capital of 1.1 billion shares, conditional capital of 1 billion. We got that one. So here's our 2.2. And then here's our additional 1.1. If you round it up, 105 would round up to 1.1. So we have this. Conditional capital of nearly 1 billion shares. Conditional capital of about 1 billion, okay, 941, and then an additional 1.8 billion shares for employee benefit plans. So I really didn't find that. And I'm curious if someone knows where those additional shares are coming from. That's kind of a lot, 1.8 billion extra. I see the warrants. So anyway, that brings my number only to 4.95, say call it like 5 billion shares. Anyway, so I just thought it was important as you go to do your earnings per share, your value per share calculations. It's really important to have a good idea of how many potential shares we're talking about. If you only use the 3.25 billion shares, like it says here, the shares outstanding, it is possible that you're overestimating the value by 52.3%. With those extra shares out there, if they issue those for bonds or whatever, it could really affect things. So something to think about. We'll see how this video does, and then maybe we'll dive deeper into some of the recent news and what all is happening on the trials and some of these recent partnerships. Hope you guys are well. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.